At the turn of the century, a comet crossed the Spanish sky, shattering the laws of fame and success and dissolving the line between the popular and the underground. For a few years, the front pages and primetime were taken over by celebrities from another dimension. Creatures who, until then, seemed condemned to ridicule and contempt, who caught our attention without adapting to any kind of normality. This isn't Mary Katherine Gallagher's story, but instead is a Spanish absurdist comedy that follows a singer named Tamara, and the entire production feels like an acid-induced fever dream. What I didn't realize going into this is that Tamara is a real person. This is a fantastical dramatization of her career and those around her. And funny enough, there's also a documentary on Netflix that's also available called I'm Still a Superstar. Now, the 6-episode limited series, it is not going to be for everybody. It almost was too much for me, too. The presentation, it's bizarre, sometimes off-putting, showcasing a cast of characters that sit on the boundaries of society just because they're grating, repulsive, self-absorbed, dysfunctional, comedic, odd, sometimes charismatic, and eternally quirky. And while the overarching storyline is that of Tamara's rise to fame, each episode is focused on one of these faces that were impactful within her life and career, but who were also worthy of a chapter within the story of Tamara's life. For as distasteful as the characters might sound, especially thanks to all those adjectives I just threw at you, they do serve an important purpose within the tale. And some began to grow on me. Not all of them. Some of them created just an exceptionally bad taste in my mouth. But because I stuck it out, I got to see the full arc at work, providing the context, resolution, and sometimes growth that they displayed. The story progression is somewhat linear, but because we're watching events from multiple people's perspectives, events can feel a little jumpy, just simply due to the timing of when this particular character entered Tamara's life. And because we start out watching Tamara as a young girl and having her mom by her side throughout so much of it, this establishes a solid foundation that can ground the timeline and then give us a sense of where we are in the past with each of the characters. Now, I know this is a Spanish production, but since I've not seen any Spanish TV other than fictionalized stories, I'm going to use Mexican TV for this example. If you've ever watched Mexican shows, especially the telenovelas and then really the talk shows, you know they are hyper and energetic, especially compared to American TV, even when stacked up against the ridiculousness of something like Jerry Springer. The Mexican shows, they bring a lot more life and vibrancy to the screen. When I worked in radio, we were doing an early morning broadcast in Disneyland on the pirate ship for one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Well, there were several other stations also on this boat, each broadcasting at the same time. Now, a little ways from us was this Mexican radio show. Gotta tell you, it was way too early for that kind of shock. They had noisemakers, loud horns, and they were so wildly animated that just about all of us jumped the first time they got rowdy. And that same intense fun and joy, combined with organized chaotic insanity, is what's captured in Superstar. There are multiple times that we watch characters appear on a TV talk show, and the antics are wild, all contributing and complementing the rest of the circus-like energy of the whole series. I can only imagine that all of the characters we watch are exaggerations of the real people, creating a satirical and humorous vision of what are presumably passionate personalities. For example, there's a character who goes by Arlequin, and he dresses as sort of this saddish clown. He's got a catchphrase that he's been workshopping for years, and just like Fetch, it's never going to happen. But he is flawed in many ways, creating this semi-relatable humanity to the persona. He's driven, focused, and relentless in his passions. Now, sometimes these make him a villain. Other times, less of a villain. And there's also a character we meet named Loli, and her story works to illustrate the cutthroat aspects of the entertainment industry. Her episode is filled with anger and melancholy, and none of it is unwarranted. She becomes a very sympathetic character, allowing us to see how she's been wounded, but also not keeping her within a victim state. Each of the stories builds on the last, and while it is a bizarre journey, the arc resolves itself in a satisfying way, never losing the fantastical edge, but somehow being grounded too. The final episode has an entirely different feel from the rest of the series, and that doesn't make it bad. It is emotionally resonant while being expertly heartbreaking and uplifting at the same time. The character growth we watch through realizations and reality checks, it's sort of painful, but in a relatable manner. And this also changes the trajectory of the storytelling from something anguish and sad to one of hope and understanding that can only come through pain and loss. Now, the finale, it raised my enjoyment and appreciation for the show just a bunch. I started to groove with the show about halfway in, but the last portion of episode 5 and then the entirety of 6 morphed into something that was touching and sincere, despite the imaginative and outlandish precursor. The series does ask a lot from audiences, mainly due to the strangeness and abrasiveness of the episodic character focuses. But if you can look past that, knowing growth is coming, the entirety of the show becomes rewarding and worth watching. So overall, Superstar captures the imagination and fantastical outlook that's needed to break in and grow a successful career in showbiz. While the characters are jarring and rough at times, they also embrace the vibrancy of the world they envision for everyone. The performances are extreme and outlandish, perfectly creating personas that are believable for this world, creating dramatic excitement as well as frustrating heartbreak as they over-emote as if life were one large show. The filming and production are lavish, creating colorful and energetic spectacles through randomness and controlled chaos. The heart of the story may feel as though it's been lost or relegated to the back at times, but in reality, it's woven throughout the narrative, stitching each character to the next to form a beautifully odd mosaic that will ultimately pierce your heart through its creativity and earnestness. There is a bunch of sex and nudity, a lot of profanity, and just a little bit of violence. I give Superstar 4.5 out of 5 couches. So are there any bizarre shows that you've watched that didn't seem like they were going to be good, but turned out to be something you loved? Let me know if you have one of those in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.